You stole from the wrong woman. The words cracked across the marble lobby just after midnight, sharp enough to make every tired guest, every bellhop, every security guard turn and stare. Ethan Calloway stood beneath the chandelier lights of the Whitmore Grand Hotel with rain dripping from the sleeves of his old canvas jacket and a black leather wallet resting on the polished front desk between him and the men who had surrounded him. One guard held a hand near Ethan's elbow, not touching hard, but close enough to make the message clear. Another had already called someone from upstairs. And standing 10 feet away, in a navy coat worth more than Ethan's truck, was Claire Whitmore, the chief executive officer whose name was stamped in gold across half the city's skyline. Her eyes moved from Ethan's worn boots to the wallet, then back to his face. Beside her, Derek Vaughn, her chief financial officer, gave a quiet laugh and said, $40,000 in cash, private cards, executive identification, and he just happened to bring it back? Come on, Claire. Men like this do not walk into a 5-star hotel at midnight unless they want something. A few people chuckled. Ethan did not. He only looked tired, the kind of tired that settled into a man's bones after too many night shifts and too many mornings pretending he was not afraid. Claire stepped closer. Did you open it? Ethan looked at her calmly. Yes, ma'am. Derek smiled wider. There it is. Claire's jaw tightened. Why? Ethan glanced down at the wallet, then back at her. To find out who it belonged to. And the money? She asked. Still there. You counted it. No, ma'am. The lobby went still, except for the soft hiss of rain against the glass doors and the low hum of the heater fighting the wet winter air. Ethan's hands were rough, cracked at the knuckles, the hands of a man who fixed things other people forgot to respect. He had a small grease stain near his cuff, and under one arm he held a paper pharmacy bag folded tightly, as if it mattered more than anything in that bright, expensive room. Claire noticed it. Derek noticed her noticing it. Ask him where he found it, Derek said. Ethan answered. Before she could. In the parking garage. Level 3, near the elevators. It was under the back tire of a black town car. Claire's eyes narrowed. That detail was correct. Too correct. Why not give it to security down there? No one was at the booth. Why not leave it? Because it was not mine. Simple words. No performance. No trembling apology. No speech about honor. Just the truth, standing there in wet work boots while wealthy strangers measured his soul by the price of his jacket. Derek leaned in, lowering his voice just enough to sound cruel without sounding loud. You expect a reward, Mr. Calloway, Ethan said. Ethan Calloway. Mr. Calloway, Derek repeated, as if the name tasted cheap. How much were you hoping for? Ethan looked at him then, and something quiet passed through the room. Not anger, not pride, something heavier. Nothing. A woman near the concierge desk whispered, Nobody returns $40,000 for nothing. Ethan heard her. Claire did too. For 1 second, his eyes dropped to the pharmacy bag under his arm, and the smallest shadow crossed his face. Then he looked back at Claire. My daughter is waiting for me. May I go now? Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and second chances, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we are glad you are here. Now, back to Ethan Calloway. Claire should have thanked him. She knew that. Somewhere beneath the polished armor of boardrooms, contracts, and men like Derek whispering suspicion into every silence, she knew what decency looked like. But her world had taught her that kindness usually came with paperwork, cameras, or a hidden invoice. So when Ethan turned toward the rain and walked out without taking $1, without asking for a ride, without even looking back, Claire did not feel relieved. She felt disturbed. Derek stepped beside her and murmured, We should have him checked out. Claire watched through the glass as Ethan crossed the ballet lane, shoulders hunched against the cold, the pharmacy bag guarded close to his chest. No, she said softly. I want to know where he goes. Derek blinked. Claire. But she had already raised her hand to her driver. Outside, Ethan disappeared into the wet glow of the parking lot, unaware that the most powerful woman in the building was about to follow him, not because she trusted him, but because she did not. And what she would find after midnight would make $40,000 feel like the smallest thing in that wallet. Claire Whitmore did not follow men through the rain. Men followed her, usually with contracts, cameras, questions, or apologies. Yet 10 minutes after Ethan Calloway left the Whitmore Grand Hotel, her black Lincoln moved slowly through downtown behind his dented gray pickup, keeping 2 car lengths back as the city blurred beneath ribbons of midnight rain. Her driver, Samuel, glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Ma'am, are we sure about this?" Claire did not answer at first. She sat with Ethan's memory still pressing against her thoughts. The wet jacket, the tired eyes, the pharmacy bag held like a secret. On the seat beside her lay the wallet, open now. Every bill still stacked in clean bands of hundreds. $40,000. Untouched. Derek had called it impossible. Claire had almost agreed. "Just keep him in sight," she said. Samuel nodded. Ahead of them, Ethan did not drive like a man escaping anything. He stopped fully at every red light, signaled before every turn, and waited when a stray dog crossed near a shuttered bakery. Nothing dramatic. Nothing guilty. Just a poor man obeying small rules in a city that had already judged him. Claire looked down at the wallet again. Tucked inside one of the hidden sleeves was a silver flash drive Derek had insisted she carry from the executive dinner, supposedly filled with harmless financial projections for the next morning's work. She had not thought about it before. People do not return $40,000 for nothing, Derek had said. But Claire wondered if people like Derek only said that because they never had. Ethan's truck turned away from the wealthy district, past the glass towers, past the private clubs, past the valet stands where men in wool coats laughed under heated awnings. The streets grew narrower, the storefronts dimmer, the sidewalks cracked. Rainwater gathered in potholes that reflected broken neon from a 24-hour laundromat and a gas station selling coffee that had probably been burning since sunset. Samuel slowed as Ethan pulled into the parking lot of St. Agnes Children's Clinic. Claire sat up. "Why is he stopping here?" Samuel eased the Lincoln along the curb. "Looks like the emergency entrance." Ethan climbed out with the pharmacy bag, but before going inside, he stood beside the truck for a moment and pressed both hands against the wheel. His head bowed, not like a man praying loudly, like a man trying not to fall apart where anyone could see. Then he walked in. Claire told herself to stay in the car. She was a chief executive officer, not a detective. She had companies to run, people to manage, decisions worth millions waiting by morning. But something about the way Ethan had said, "My daughter is waiting for me," had followed her harder than the rain. She stepped out, pulled her coat tight, and crossed the parking lot. Inside the clinic, the air smelled of disinfectant, damp coats, and vending machine coffee. The waiting room was nearly empty. A television murmured cartoons with the sound turned low. A young mother slept upright with a toddler against her shoulder. Claire stopped near a hallway corner where she could see Ethan at the billing desk. His voice was low, respectful. "I picked up the inhaler, but they said the new prescription needs approval." The woman behind the desk looked tired, not unkind, just tired. "Mr. Calloway, I am sorry. The insurance rejected the specialist medication again. Without approval, the out-of-pocket cost is $2,860. Ethan went still. "For 1 month." "Yes, sir." He looked down at the pharmacy bag in his hand. "And the old one?" "It helps, but Dr. Patel marked the new one urgent." "Can I pay half tonight?" "The pharmacy cannot release it that way." The silence that followed was small, but it filled the room. Claire felt her fingers tighten around the wallet in her coat pocket. $40,000 sat inches from her hand. $2,860 stood between a little girl and breathing easier. Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded envelope. The paper was soft from being opened too many times. "I have $612, he said. "I get paid Friday." The clerk's face changed. "I wish I could override it." Ethan nodded, because dignity sometimes looked like thanking someone who could not help you. "I understand." Then a small voice came from behind a curtain down the hall. "Daddy." Ethan turned so fast Claire could see the fear beneath his calm. A little girl in purple pajamas stood there with a nurse beside her, pale but smiling, holding a stuffed rabbit by one ear. Ethan's whole face softened. "Hey, Lilybug, did you get the medicine?" He walked to her and crouched down, hiding the pharmacy bag behind his knee. "Almost, sweetheart." Claire looked away, not because she was bored, not because she was embarrassed for him, because the man who had returned enough money to change his life was now lying gently to protect his daughter from the weight of being poor. And for the first time in years, Claire Whitmore felt rich in a way that made her ashamed. Claire remained near the hallway corner long after Ethan lifted Lily into his arms. He held her carefully, one hand behind her back, the other smoothing the tangled hair from her forehead, as if every small gesture could make the world gentler. "Were you scared?" he asked. Lily shook her head, but her fingers tightened around his collar. "Only a little." "That is brave." "Were you scared?" Ethan smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Only a little." The nurse looked down at the chart and gave him the kind of smile people give when they wish kindness could pay for medicine. "She is stable tonight, Mr. Calloway. Keep her warm. Keep the rescue inhaler close, and call us immediately if her breathing changes." Ethan nodded. "Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Patel will try the insurance appeal again in the morning." "I appreciate it." He said it like a man who had learned to survive on words that were not promises. Claire watched him sign the discharge paper, tuck the useless pharmacy bag into his jacket, and carry Lily out. Into the rain. She should have stepped forward then. She should have said his name, explained herself, offered help without pride. But shame has a strange way of making even powerful people silent. So she followed again. Not closely. Not like a hunter now. More like a witness who had arrived late to the truth. Ethan drove 20 minutes east, beyond the clean hotel lights and the glass towers with their glowing company names, into a neighborhood where the street lamps flickered and the houses leaned tiredly against winter. His truck turned into the lot of a faded brick apartment building beside a closed tire shop. Claire's Lincoln stopped across the street. Through the wet windshield, she saw Ethan carry Lily up the stairs to the second floor, balancing her weight against one hip while unlocking the door with practiced difficulty. A yellow porch bulb buzzed above them. The door opened. Warm light spilled out, thin but honest. Claire sat very still. Samuel did not speak. In the small apartment window, the curtains had not been fully closed. She could see only pieces, but sometimes pieces tell more truth than a whole performance. A narrow kitchen. A second-hand table. A little Christmas tree in the corner, no taller than 3 feet, decorated with paper stars and one silver baby. Ethan set Lily on a chair and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. She said something that made him laugh softly, and the sound seemed to surprise even him. Then he moved through the apartment with quiet efficiency. Kettle on the stove, shoes lined by the door, a towel under a leaking windowsill, a small portable heater angled toward his daughter. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was careless. Claire's mansion had rooms she had not entered in months. Ethan's apartment had no space for loneliness, only need. Lily pointed toward the table. Ethan hesitated, then reached into a kitchen drawer and took out 4 envelopes bound with a rubber band. He laid them down one by one. Claire could read the words because they were written in thick black marker. Rent. Medicine. Lily's lunch. Christmas. He opened the first envelope and counted slowly. Then the second. Then the third. His shoulders sank a little with each one. The 4th envelope was almost flat. Lily watched him with the solemn face of a child who had learned too early when not to ask questions. "Daddy," she said, her voice faint through the glass when Claire lowered the car window an inch. "Is Santa still coming?" Ethan froze for half a breath. Then he turned with a smile so tender it nearly broke the room. "Santa knows our address. Even if we move?" Ethan looked toward the envelope marked rent. The rain tapped the window between them like small fingers. "Even then, sweetheart." Lily seemed satisfied. Ethan turned away just long enough to press his palm over his eyes. Not for drama. Not for pity. Just 1 second of private weather passing through a tired man. Then he straightened, carried a bowl of soup to the table, and made his daughter laugh by pretending the spoon was too heavy to lift. Claire leaned back in the Lincoln, her throat tight. She had spent years believing character revealed itself in negotiations, under pressure, across polished boardroom tables. But here it was, in a 2-bedroom apartment that smelled, she imagined, of soup, damp coats, and old carpet. Here it was, in a father who had returned $40,000 while his own Christmas envelope lay empty. Samuel looked at her in the mirror. "Ma'am." Claire closed the wallet in her lap. "Take me home," she whispered. Then she looked once more at the glowing window. Ethan Calloway had not known he was being followed. He had not known anyone saw the envelopes, the lie about Santa, the way he hid fear behind a spoon and a smile. And that was what changed everything. Because goodness performed for an audience can be questioned, but goodness seen in secret has the weight of truth. By sunrise, Claire Whitmore had not slept. She stood barefoot in the silent kitchen of her penthouse, staring at the city through glass walls while the first pale light slid over downtown like a confession. Her home was warm, spotless, and enormous, but for the first time in years, it felt strangely empty. On the counter beside her sat Ethan Calloway's Honesty, folded into the shape of a black leather wallet. $40,000 returned. A sick child untreated. A Christmas envelope almost empty. Claire touched the edge of the wallet and heard Derek's voice from the night before. Men like this do not walk into a five-star hotel at midnight unless they want something. She used to believe that. Not fully, not proudly, but enough to protect herself. Enough to let suspicion sound like wisdom. At 7:15, her phone buzzed with 3 messages from Derek. Board call at 9. Need the flash drive. Also, we should run a background check on Calloway. Claire read the last message twice. Then she placed the phone face down. By 8:30, she was not in the boardroom. She was sitting in the back booth of Miller's Diner, 6 blocks from St. Agnes Children's Clinic, wearing an old gray sweater, dark jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low enough that no one in her world would have recognized her. The place smelled of coffee, bacon, maple syrup, and old wood. Truckers sat at the counter. Nurses in blue scrubs leaned over eggs and toast. A radio near the kitchen played soft country music under the clatter of plates. Claire had chosen the booth because she could see the door. At 8:42, Ethan walked in. He looked even more tired in daylight. His jacket was dry now, but still worn at the seams, and his eyes carried the quiet math of a man adding bills before breakfast. The waitress, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a pencil behind her ear, called out, "Morning, Ethan." "Morning, June." "Lily okay?" He paused just a little. "She is home resting." June's face softened. "You eating today or just fixing my sink again?" "Depends which one is cheaper." She pointed toward the kitchen. "Sink first. Coffee after." Ethan smiled and disappeared through the back hallway with a small toolbox. Claire watched as if she had found the missing chapter of a book she had misread. He was not a guest here. He was not a customer. He was the man people trusted when something broke. 10 minutes later, a sharp complaint cut through the diner. A businessman at the counter held up his phone and snapped at June. "I have been waiting 12 minutes for a refill. Is service always this slow in this dump?" The room dipped into an uncomfortable hush. June flushed. "Sir, I am sorry. We are short today. That is not my problem." Ethan stepped out from the hallway, wiping his hands on a rag. "Coffee is fresh," he said calmly. "I can pour it." The businessman looked him over. "Do you even work here?" Ethan picked up the pot. "Today, apparently." A few people smiled. The tension loosened. He filled the man's cup, then topped off 3 others without being asked. No insult. No lecture. Just grace with work boots on. Claire felt something settle in her chest. Something softer than admiration and heavier than guilt. When Ethan finally sat at the counter with a cup of black coffee, she stood and walked to the register. She paid for her untouched breakfast, then laid 10 crisp $100 bills under the edge of her plate. June's eyes widened. "Honey, that is too much." Claire whispered, "It is for him." But Ethan had seen it. He rose before she reached the door. "Ma'am." Claire stopped. She did not turn right away. "You forgot something." His voice was gentle, but firm. She faced him. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Not surprise exactly. More like confirmation. He had known. Maybe not at first, but now. Ethan held out the money. "I did not forget it." "Then I cannot take it. You do not even know why I left it." "I know how it feels." The diner grew quiet again, but this silence was different from the hotel lobby. This one listened. Claire lowered her voice. It was not pity. Ethan's face remained calm. "Then do not make it look like pity." The words landed